If you can't stand Stephen Miller, then you are going to love this video, because this might be one of the most satisfying things I've talked about in a long time. There is truly no one in Trump's administration, not even Trump himself, who is more vile, more repulsive, and more detestable than Stephen Miller. He is bitter, angry, and constantly spiraling, and everyone around him knows it. That's exactly why he is melting down behind the scenes right now, as leaks from inside the White House reveal his screaming fits and growing panic over the possibility of being fired. We're going to dive into all of it, the chaos, the rage, and the threat hanging over him. But before we do, if you enjoy this channel, please leave a like on this video and hit the subscribe button, because it really helps us out. Now, let's start with the Republican who called Miller out today and pushed him into this latest meltdown, North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis.
Mr. Miller said that the U.S. government, obviously, Greenland should be part of the U.S. That is absurd. I've got a couple of buddies that call me cranky. You know what makes me cranky? Stupid. What makes me cranky is when people don't do their homework. What makes me cranky is when we tarnish the extraordinary execution of a mission I fully support in Venezuela by turning around and making insane comments about how it is our right to have territory owned by the Kingdom of Denmark. Folks, amateur hour is over. You don't speak on behalf of this U.S. Senator or the Congress. You can say it may be the position of the President of the United States that Greenland should be a part of the United States, but it's not the position of this government, because we are a co-equal branch. And if that were to come to pass, there would be a vote on the floor to make it real. Not the surreal sort of environment that some deputy chief of staff thinks was cute to say on TV. So, you want to get me back to thanking the president for all the good things he's doing? Then give him good advice.
The idea that someone in a presidential administration who was never elected by the people could hold as much power as Stephen Miller is unbelievable. Now add to that the years of MAGA media insisting that Joe Biden wasn't really in charge, saying he was asleep, mentally gone, and incapable of being president. They framed it as outrageous that Biden was president at all. Then Trump comes along, endlessly ranting about the auto pen, while effectively handing the presidency over to Stephen Miller. The same Stephen Miller now dragging us into a forever war with Venezuela. Obsessed with building oil rigs and infrastructure there instead of here. That's who's calling the shots. On top of that, he's pushing nonsense like a mission to Greenland because his wife, a failed podcaster, fired off a dumb tweet that got enough likes. That's how the MAGA universe works, apparently. So yes, Thom Tillis is absolutely justified in calling Stephen Miller out and questioning his role and power. Before we even get to what triggered Miller's latest meltdown.
Do you want Stephen Miller to lose his job?
Look, either Stephen Miller needs to get into a lane where he knows what he's talking about, or get out of his job. Look, the reason why I thought it was important for me to make a comment on the floor is I've been the Republican leader of the Senate NATO Observer Group since 2018. There is no more important alliance than the NATO alliance. And Denmark has punched above its weight. It came to Afghanistan, lost 43 soldiers on the ground, fought in some of the most contested regions, honoring their Article 5 commitment to the United States.
I think they lost more soldiers than any other country per capita.
Per capita, they did. And Jake, they were in among the NATO allies at the time. It was 30 nations. They were among the top 6. And think about all the nations bigger than them. So to have the Prime Minister suggest that they have to be prepared for some sort of action by the United States suggests to me that Mr. Miller does not know anything about the alliance, the importance of it. And, you know, generals, I was on Senate Armed Services for 8 years, and generals would always say the same thing. The only thing worse than going to war with allies is going to war without allies. This alliance is critically important. Shaking that alliance sends a signal to Putin that he's winning, and Stephen Miller doesn't represent the U.S. government. He represents the Article 2 branch, and I, as a member of the U.S. Senate, get to weigh into this issue, and I know, whether they say it out loud or not, most of my colleagues agree with me.
Tom Tillis is right. Stephen Miller should be fired. He's not a great shadow president. I don't like the regular president. I would say I'm pretty much not a fan of anyone in this administration. I don't know if that's going to shock any of you, but Stephen Miller shouldn't have any of the jobs that he does. He is in charge of too much stuff. And again, it does just baffle me that an administration that has pushed AutoPen is so comfortable to cede so much to Stephen Miller. The man is clearly in charge. Donald Trump is in deep cognitive decline, and everyone is taking advantage of him. Not in a way that I certainly feel bad for the ailing old man. He seems content throwing ketchup at the walls and screaming at Fox News and bleeding all day. But yes, Stephen Miller is running the show. Stephen Miller is in charge at the White House, and Stephen Miller is consistently unhappy. And I hope that can bring a little joy to you, because it seems like most of the time Stephen Miller is a screaming Miller. And this article from reports shared within the White House is exposing how the ugliest man in America is also seemingly the angriest. Insiders spill on Stephen Miller's daily yelling meltdowns. Stephen Miller's daily conference calls routinely descend into him loudly berating staff and launching into full-on meltdowns. Insiders have revealed a lengthy Atlantic profile of the White House Deputy Chief of Staff details how Miller's 10 a.m. calls, which take place on Saturdays, give the 40-year-old a chance to act like a wartime general and shout at those he believes are not doing enough to push his agenda. One senior official said Miller's leadership of these meetings often descends into hectoring rather than productive feedback. He pushes everybody to the absolute limit because he knows that the clock is ticking. The unnamed official said he gets on the phone and he yells at everybody. Nobody is spared from his wrath. Miller, whose extremist views have led to him being labeled a white supremacist and compared to the Harry Potter villain Voldemort, is known for his unhinged outbursts and rants on news networks such as Fox News. It's not just people outside the White House who can't stand Stephen Miller. Even people inside the White House dislike him. That's what makes his recent appearance on Sean Hannity so ridiculous. The man who's supposedly running U.S. policy on Venezuela went on primetime Fox News to complain that CNN banned him. And yet, not long after, he still went on CNN just to shout at Jake Tapper, ranting nonstop about how America has been mistreated since World War II, while somehow also arguing that America was at its strongest in that same era. These people can't even keep their own argument straight. They want to return to a fantasy version of America that never actually existed, while also claiming that the country has been completely ruined since then. We already know what kind of America Stephen Miller wants to go back to. One rooted in exclusion and cruelty. People sometimes say you don't need to mock someone like Miller personally because their ideas are bad enough. But honestly, Stephen Miller invites criticism in every possible way, and the fact that his wife's failed podcast gets no attention just makes the hypocrisy funnier. They truly deserve each other. If both of them disappeared from public life tomorrow, the country would instantly be better off. But instead, Miller is shouting at the entire White House while somehow being in charge of everything from Venezuela policy to immigration. Meanwhile, Trump's biggest concern is complaining that the media doesn't give him credit for his lunch breaks. So yes, Stephen Miller keeps melting down, keeps demanding media attention, and keeps insisting that his voice must be heard everywhere, as if being a hateful extremist automatically entitles him to equal airtime. And yet, the real comfort is that no matter how loud he shouts, most people can see exactly who he is, and they're rejecting it. Sometimes that alone is enough to feel better. Thanks for watching. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.